Hey everybody. First of all, this video has no spoilers for My Hero Academia, assuming that you are caught up to the anime, which at the moment of this recording, it's about Season 3, Episode 11, right around there. If you are not caught up, you've been warned, because we'll be talking about some of the events that happened even in this most recent episode, as it kind of comes into play here. But this video also, it's still relevant in the manga. Like, these questions haven't been answered, and they probably won't be answered for a pretty long time. We have learned more information about some of the characters that we talk about, between where we are now in the anime and where we currently are in the manga. And so obviously we won't be talking about those, but I still feel like nothing has really changed between then and now in terms of this question. And this question, also being the title of the video, is how will Bakugo keep up to Deku? So, we're told in the beginning of the series that Deku is going to become the #1 hero. And so, either the series is going to end with Deku achieving the #1 spot, or he will be the #1 hero and defeat the ultimate evil, or something like that. But at the end, Deku will be recognized as the greatest hero. However, this is also the goal of Katsuki Bakugo. And here's the thing about these two characters. Horikoshi, he is the mangaka, or the author of My Hero Academia, has put these characters into a very typical shonen dual protagonist setup. And so probably the most obvious example of this would be Sasuke and Naruto from Naruto. But they work pretty different. At the very least, Bakugo is not going down the same route Sasuke went down. He is still trying to be a hero, obviously. With that being the goal, it's just kind of how this works. And so the basis of this dual protagonist setup is that every single time one of the characters succeeds in something or moves further, it propels the other one to go even further until eventually it gets to the point where these two characters are at their peak potential at the end of the series. Take, for example, in Naruto, when the new Team 7 goes and finds Sasuke at Orochimaru's hideout, and Sasuke is clearly just far superior to all of them and beats the entire team basically by himself. This is going to inspire Naruto to work harder than ever before, because he realizes how far Sasuke is ahead of him. So this is an example of one character going ahead and then the other one having to, really try their hardest in order to surpass them. And this is similar to how we assume My Hero Academia is going to work. We've already kind of seen this, where as Deku catches up to Bakugo, even in their first training exercise at UA, Bakugo instantly feels threatened, and he feels like he has to push even further to keep that gap. But that gap's not always going to stay closed, and so they're going to keep pushing each other forwards. It's kind of a plot device, honestly, because it's just like an instant motivation, and also kind of gives way to like some training montage or something to really push the characters forwards. But it works. And the major problem for Bakugo is that we have a pretty good idea of where Deku is going to be at the end of the series in terms of power. And this is All Might, but not only just All Might. So All Might, at this point in the series, is basically on his deathbed. His quirk has been fading because he's, given it to Deku, and he just is not himself. Even All For One says that he is just nowhere near his former self. He is weak, and he is dying, and he cannot compare to All Might Prime. Now, we also have Endeavor, who is the #2 hero in Japan, in obviously second to All Might. So, for Bakugo to be the greatest hero of all time, he would obviously need to surpass Endeavor. But the question is, how is he really going to do that? So Endeavor can use his quirk in ways that are kind of similar to Bakugo. Not entirely, it's explosions and fire, but Endeavor does have the ability to, shoot these extremely large flame blasts at high distances with high power and heat, which is pretty similar to Bakugo, and he can also use them to propel himself. We don't know. It doesn't seem like he can do it as much as Bakugo, because Bakugo can basically fly, and as we saw, Endeavor had to run up a wall in order to catch Nomu back in the Stain Arc, so he can't do it as much. But it's pretty clear that this exists, and also Endeavor has a lot more versatility to his quirk. He can use it to, I believe, craft flame spears. He was able to run up the building by that. He was able to run up the building when he was going to attack that Nomu. And he was able to do this by melting kind of like footholes in the side of the building and being able to run up it. So, not only that, but it's fire, and it seems like he can pretty much surround himself in it, which also then acts as a defensive maneuver. So, well, we're just going to have to assume, because we know Bakugo will surpass Endeavor, just by how the narrative is going, that Bakugo can just exert so much more force than Endeavor, that he has the ability to surpass him. And so, that might be a bit of a stretch. Endeavor's one of the strongest characters we know of in the series at this moment, and so even just giving Bakugo this assumption, we have to compare Endeavor to All Might. And even right now, when All Might is on his deathbed, nowhere near, his peak or anything like that, Endeavor still just cannot compare as a hero to All Might. And that's in power and fighting prowess and all of this stuff. Just All Might, even in this like decayed state, is more than Endeavor can hope to be. All Might just has an absolute absurd amount of power. At his absolute best, from what we've seen, one single punch, it was his strongest punch, but it creates just like an entire cyclone around him. And even these lesser punches of his, that are still at, mostly full power, creates these high pressure wind fields, just these blasts of air and explosions. When Deku does his attacks as well, he's also creating these, air pressure fields, which are incredibly strong and powerful. And they even have the ability to kind of push enemies around or knock people off of cliffs, like we saw Koda. What happened to Koda back when Deku was fighting Muscular. So this is just so much power, and it's already possible to say that this is more than Endeavor can output. We don't know for sure, but it's possible. And this isn't even All Might's strongest, attack. And even if it was the strongest attack, he's, in his deathbed. And so the other thing about this is that All for One is just not a normal quirk. All for One is the combination of two quirks specifically, one that allows you to pass on your current quirk or quirks to another person, and another ability which is the ability to stockpile power over time. And so this is not a natural occurrence because of these two quirks existing. We essentially have the ability to stockpile more and more power as time goes on, and then a pseudo-infinite amount of time in order to stockpile power. So this quirk just has more power at this point and will continue to grow stronger and stronger than any kind of natural quirk can ever hope to achieve, just solely of the fact that it is a normal quirk that has been pushed to its, not its limits, but pushed to the extent of what it can do in a normal lifetime. And then times, I believe Deku is now the 9th carrier of One for All. So there's that. And even so, Endeavor is the strongest naturally born quirk user that we know of. There could be other villains or even other heroes outside of Japan, because we only really know about Japanese heroes at this point that are stronger than Endeavor, that maybe compare closer to All Might. But let's just assume Endeavor is about as good as it gets after All Might. Endeavor says himself that there's basically this impossible gap to bridge in order to get from where he is to All Might, and this is All Might at his, weakened state. Back when he had this giant inferiority complex, and he started treating his wife and kids the way that he did, and really, pushed for Shoto. This has to be at least like 15 years ago or so, and we know that All Might at this point was, if he wasn't in his prime then, he was in his prime until he fought All for One the first time 6 years ago. So maybe Endeavor is pretty close to All Might in terms of right now. It certainly doesn't look like it in terms of what we've seen from the two of them, but it is possible. But either way, Deku is going to be stronger than All Might was. Because of the nature of the stockpiling ability, the amount of time Deku has the quirk after, it's all gone from All Might, it will get stronger once Deku masters it. So Bakugo is not only going to have to surpass Endeavor and All Might, but then also the next character after All Might, which at this point is Deku. So we know for a fact that Deku is going to surpass All Might, and narratively, it makes sense that Bakugo would have to keep up with Deku throughout the series. At the end, maybe Deku gets, significantly stronger than Bakugo, but as of right now, the two don't really compare. So the one thing Bakugo does have going for him right now is that he is a tactical genius. When it comes to combat and fighting, he is just extremely adept, and he is better than most people when it comes to, this area of being a hero. His combat sense is just like insane. So at this point, Deku would have to be quite a bit more powerful than Bakugo in order to be able to beat him in a fight. Because it's stated before, even by Muscular, that Deku just does not have any kind of fighting style, right? He just kind of relies on One for All and the power it gives him, and he really doesn't know how to be anything other than straight direct because he's never had to be. He either has had absolutely no control at all, or enough to absolutely just, blast away anybody in his path. And so we also know that Bakugo, as of right now, is probably similar in strength to where Deku is. That might sound odd, but as we know of, at this point, Deku is only using 5% of his power. And we actually have a comparison between the two characters. Bakugo's Gauntlet, which, does the giant blast attack that's all stored up sweat. And when Deku launches it against All Might, he says he can't believe Bakugo is using this because there's just such a recoil on this, it was hurting Deku. And considering how Bakugo doesn't, break his arm every time he uses it, it's safe to say that he is at least relative to Deku. And Deku is currently pushing forwards in order to surpass them. So we're going to see this first change of the power. And this makes sense for now. Bakugo is considered one of the strongest characters at UA, or at least in this class that we know of at UA. He won the sports festival, and he's honestly incredibly he's incredibly powerful. But at the end of the series, how is Bakugo going to rival the power of Deku and All Might? It's just to say that, hypothetically, Bakugo can produce explosions that rival the power of one of All Might's attacks. It's already been stated, like we just said before, that there's this massive recoil, right, to using even, the current state of his, the max of his power. And so even if he was able to create this giant explosion that, rivaled Deku's power that he could counter him with, he would have to have the physical strength and, ability to block recoil that he would have to handle that. And even if it's only, 30% of what he shoots out is recoiled, which physically does not make any sense, by the way, that's just way too strong for a normal human to be. If that was the case, then Sato, who he's the guy who eats sugar and he gets 5 times stronger, then if he were to achieve the same level of physical strength, then he would be far stronger than All Might, just by being able to harness that. Well, at least when he was in a sugar rush. But, right, that's not really feasible. It doesn't seem that Bakugo would ever be able to really kind of handle shooting out that kind of blast. And so narratively, it makes sense that Deku and Bakugo are going to stay near each other the entire series, but with the rules of the world right now, it's just, that doesn't seem like it should be able to happen. Bakugo would have to far surpass everybody before him, and then, I mean, a lot of people after him as well, just in order to stay on Deku, and it doesn't seem possible. But that's just the point of the question. How will Bakugo keep up with Deku? Okay, and so this video is mostly existing in order to pose the question and start a conversation about it. I want to talk about some of the possibilities, though. And so the first one is that he just doesn't. Bakugo is unable to power scale compared to Deku, and just as the series goes on, he just becomes less and less relevant and finds himself in an Endeavor situation where he's just always just far behind and will never be able to catch up to where he wants to be. I could honestly see this happening, but I just really don't think it will. Bakugo is too fleshed out of a character and too important to the series for him to just be cut out, halfway through the story, or, at the end of the story. He's always going to be relevant, and although it makes sense that he would fall off, I just don't think it's going to happen. Another reason is that, another possibility is that Bakugo just magically is able to harness and handle the recoil of like All Might level, explosions. No. I don't really think this is going to happen. It's already been stated that this is a giant downside, and even right now, if Bakugo just completely unleashes all of his power with no, hesitation or, with no holding back, it physically damages his arms. It's a risk for him to do that, which is why he created the gauntlet in the first place. And I just feel like this is too important of a part, even at this point in the series, that Horikoshi would never, just ignore the rules of the world he's created in order to have the two characters be on equal footing. Okay, and so now, the last thing that I think is possible is actually something we've already seen, and this is Bakugo really taking advantage of support items. First of all, the gauntlets he has right now are support items. Those are things that allow him to use his quirk and extend the usage of his body in a way that he normally couldn't, in order to avoid, the problems with overexerting his quirk and using it too much. We also know that Hatsumi Mei is a character that in Season 2 got quite a bit of screen time, and while she hasn't really been very important to the series, as of right now, it's pretty reasonable to think that she will later. Otherwise, why would she have gotten so much screen time? And even if she doesn't end up being more important to the series as the line goes, or even if she doesn't end up being, very important to the series as it goes on, she introduced the idea and the concept of support items, and that they can be powerful, they can be useful, and heroes need support items in order to extend their abilities. So, I considering how Bakugo is so good at what he does, and he's so smart and powerful and everything, it makes sense that he is going to take the support items that he already knows how to use and expand upon those and add new ones to his arsenal, so that he can keep up with Deku, and so that he can keep pushing his abilities forward, and he can use his quirk in new ways and expand on not only the quirk itself, but just the concept of what it can even do. And if that seems like a bit of a stretch, that support items are going to be the difference between Deku and Bakugo, I don't think that's right. And this is because Hatsumi Mei and the others, other support characters that we may meet down the line, they have just as much room to grow between now and the end of the series as Deku and Bakugo do. It's likely that Hatsumi Mei and other support characters, if we ever do get introduced to more of them, they will be breaking grounds in hero support technology, just like Deku and Bakugo are going to be breaking grounds of what it means to be the #1 hero. Well, anyways, that's the end of this video. Just a fun little ramble rant thing. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like the video, let me know what you think, because I'm genuinely curious how people think Bakugo is going to be able to keep up. But anyways, thanks for watching.